Lesson 3, Applications of Percents. Recall that in Lesson 2, we looked at the introduction to percents. So now in Lesson 3, we're going to look at applications or word problems. To solve these problems, we're typically going to use one of the same two basic strategies that we studied in the last unit, proportions. And for proportions, we typically set them up as part over base equals the rate, where the rate will be written as a fraction with a denominator of 100. To solve with equations, we looked at that method as well in Lesson 2, and you're encouraged to review that. I'm going to take a look at some of the highlights. One way to write out these problems is when they're in the form of an English sentence. And in this case, one of the forms is part is percent of base. Sometimes the English language has us write this in a slightly different order. The percent of the base is the part. Of those three things, one will be missing, and we'd call that the variable, so we'll usually call that x. The word of is going to typically indicate a multiplication. So you'll notice the arrows would say that we translate the word of into our mathematical equation as a multiplication dot. The word is will become an equal sign, so we translate that as shown. Note that if you're solving for a percent, you should not write x percent in your equation. Rather, you should just write x. We sometimes write x percent in the English sentence as we're setting it up, but we want to simply use x in our equation. And at the end of solving such an equation, we're going to need to convert our decimal answer into the form of a percent. Notice that you're allowed to use either the proportion method or the equation method that we studied in Lesson 2, but for the purposes of this lesson, we're going to focus on the equation method for reasons we stated before. Primarily that this is the method that is the most versatile for the work we're going to do going forward in the course. And as we've already seen, our unknown, our variable, we typically use a letter x or n. Sometimes we use a letter that fits the context of the question. So if you're looking for the cost, you might use the letter C. And that brings us to our first example. Example 1. Statistics show that 12% of dog owners own 3 or more dogs. If 75 dog owners are selected, how many are expected to own 3 or more dogs? Well, this question gives us the percentage, the rate, and it's telling us that there's 75 dog owners that they're going to select, and they're going to see how many of them own 3 or more dogs. So we're looking for the part out of a base of 75. So we could say 12% of the base of 75 is what number? Is what number? Recall that with the equation method, of becomes your multiplication dot, is becomes an equal. 75 and what number can come down as 75 and x. 12%, recall that when we're pulling a percentage down into our equation, we want to change it to a decimal. It would start to the right of the 2 and end up 1, 2 places. So it ends up over here, and we typically write the 0 out in front. This equation is nice because it's already solved for x. X is already by itself. If I grab my calculator and type 0.12 times 75, I get 9. And in the context of this question, what we found is that we would expect 9 of these dog owners to own 3 or more dogs out of the 75. So the answer is 9. And here's the same example typed up. This brings us to our first pencil problem. I'm going to point out that the pencil problems will be solved in a different video, so you're encouraged to watch that video as well. So during this presentation, I'll be just giving you enough time to pause the tape if you'd like, or you can just watch as the solution comes up on the screen. For this question, here's how the sentence would be written, and here's the rest of the solution. Now for the next example. Example number 2. A family deposited a principal of $2,500 into a savings account and earned $93.75 interest. What percent of the principal is the interest? Well, this question is asking what percent, and we could use the standard vocabulary, what percent of the base is the part, but we could also use the idea of the particular vocabulary of this question and ask what percent of the principal is the interest. These are equivalent to each other, and of will still be our multiplication dot, is the equals. The principal, they told us, is 2,500, so that can come straight down. And the interest earned was $93.75, so that also can be brought down. What percent? Well, we're trying to find the interest rate. It says what percent of the principal is the interest, so that's our x. To continue the algebra, x times 2,500 is 2,500x equals 93.75. We divide both sides by the coefficient of x. And on this side, the coefficients of x and the number below cancel, giving us just x. And then on the right side, again, we'll need to use our calculator. And it's always the top divided by the bottom. And that gives us 0.0375. Notice that the question asks for a percent. When we do it on the calculator, this division gives us a decimal. So we need to move the decimal point 2 places to the right, which will place it between the 3 and the 7, and place a percent symbol to the right, and 3.75% is our final answer. And here's that solution typed up. For pencil problem number 2, here's the setup, and here's the solution. Next example. Example number 3. In a recent survey, 576 people, or 45%, believe in ghosts. How many people were in the survey? Well, notice that the 576 people is representing the 45% that believe in ghosts. So this is the part out of the total number of people in the survey. So we need to structure a sentence of the type that we've been working with. And one way to do that would be to say 45% of the base is the part, and of what number, because we don't know the base. we're looking for how many people were in that survey. 45% of what number is 576? Now we take our English sentence and we'll translate it. Is becomes our equal, of is the multiplication. I'll start on the right. 576 can come straight down. What number? We don't know it, so we'll call that x. 45%, we'll bring it down, but we'll change from a percent to a decimal by getting rid of the percent symbol, and the decimal point would start to the right of the 5, and the rule is to move it 2 places to the left, which gives us 0.45, or more standard we would say 0.45. To clean up this equation, the right is the same. On the left, this multiplication just gives us the 0.45 as the coefficient of x, so that's what we'll divide both sides by. Coefficients cancel over here, so we get x equals, and I'll do the top divided by the bottom, 576 divided by 0.45 equals, and that gives me 1280. And then we need to continue to think about how that fits in the context of the question. In the survey, 576 people, which was 45%, believed in ghosts. How many people did they survey in total? And the answer is 1,280 people were surveyed. And here's that example typed up. Pencil problem number 3. Here's the initial setup, and here's the rest of the solution. For our next key concept, we're going to look at increase and decrease problems that involve percents. As it says here, we're often faced with problems that require us to figure out a new amount based on a percentage of increase or decrease of the original amount. For increase problems, once we find the amount of increase, we'll add it to the original amount. For decrease problems, it's similar, but we'll find the amount of decrease and then subtract it from the original amount. The sentence structure is actually going to be very similar to what we've studied before. The percent of the base is the part. Let's take a look at an example. Example 4. Because of the increase in the cost of raw materials, a food manufacturer raised its price on a loaf of bread that originally cost $3.50 by 18%. Find the increase in price and the new price. So first we'll find the increase in price by writing out a sentence that will help us translate into an equation, and it'll look something like this. 18% of the original is the increase. 18% of $3.50 is the amount of increase. Now I should be careful because I said amount of increase and we have the word of in here twice, so keep in mind that this is just the amount of increase. This is the of that turns into our multiplication dot. The is our equal sign. 18%, when we rewrite it, we'll get rid of the percent symbol and we'll move the decimal point that would start immediately to the right 2 places to the left. That's 0.18 or 0.18. The $3.50 can come straight down. I don't need the dollar sign right now, but 3.50. And the amount of increase is what we're looking for, so that gives us x. This is my favorite type of equation where I'm solving for x and it's already by itself, so it's a matter of multiplying what you see on the left. 0.18 times 3.50 is 0.63. So x equals 0.63. The increase in price, therefore, would be this amount. You can think of it with the dollar sign. It's $0.63, or if I got rid of the decimal point, it would just be 63 with the cent symbol. But this is the answer for the first part, the increase in price. The new price can be found by taking the original price, $3.50, and adding the 63-cent increase. And I'll do this one manually this time. 0 plus 3 is 3. 5 plus 6 is 11. So I put the 1 down here, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. Keep my decimal point lined up. And so the new price is $4.13. And that is our final answer. And here's that solution typed up. For pencil problem number 4, here's the setup, and here's the rest of the solution. Notice that once we find x, that is the amount of decrease, it will need to be subtracted from the original amount to find the new price. The next key concept deals with sales tax and commission. And actually, these are simply the same types of problems we've already studied, but because sales tax is so common and commission is very common, we use some special vocabulary associated with it. For the proportion method, if you're looking at sales tax, the rate, the base, and the part would be the tax rate, the purchase price, and the sales tax that you pay. For commission problems, there'll be a certain commission rate that the salesperson receives based on the purchase price of the item that they sold, and the part would be the commission that they earn. It's actually the same in the equation method. The commission earned is based on a percentage of the purchase price. And for sales tax, the purchase price is the original amount. The increase is the amount of sales tax. And when you add together the sales tax and the purchase price, that'll give you the total price. We'll have plenty of examples of these coming up. Next example. Example 5. The purchase price of a new 42-inch HD TV is $897. Find the sales tax paid and the total price if the sales tax rate is 8%. Well, let's begin by finding the sales tax paid, because we know 8% of the the regular price, the $897, is the tax paid. So there's our sentence. 8% of the $897 is the tax. So we can do the translations just like before. Of is a multiplication, is our equal sign. The 897 comes straight down. The tax is what we don't know. We'll call that x. And the 8%, again, we have to change this to a decimal by taking the percent symbol off. The decimal point starts to the right of the 8, and we'll move it 2 places. When we do that, notice that we'll get, it would start here. We have to move it 1, 2, so we have to put a 0 in as a placeholder. And then the 0 way out in front is optional. The x is already by itself, so we can just take our calculator and multiply those two quantities together. 0.08 times 897 is 7176. So this is the tax, the sales tax on that purchase price. Now they want the total price. To find the total price, I'll take my 897 and I'll show it with the pennies as well. So I can line up my tax of 7176. Those need to be added together. Use my calculator. And actually my 7176 is already in the window, so I'm going to add 897. And I get 968.76. So that's $968.76, and these are our final answers. And here's that same solution typed up. And now here's pencil problem number 5. For our next example, example number 6. The commission earned on the sale of a new car is $1,612.80. What is the commission rate if the purchase price is $46,080? Well, we're looking for the commission rate, which is our percent, and we know that we can ask the question, what percent of the base, and in this case the base is the purchase price, what percent of the base, what percent of the base is the part, which is, in this case, the part is what the salesperson gets to keep. And we continue to translate that English sentence. And so we don't know this, so we'll call it X. We bring this number down, and this one. We can rewrite this with 46080 as the coefficient of X. And then the rule, the strategy, is to take what they're multiplying X by, and we'll divide both sides by that. And I'll use my calculator to help me with that. Of course, on this side they cancel, giving us X equals, and then it's the top divided by the bottom. 1612.80 divided by 46080 equals 0.035. So the division turned this into a decimal. Remember, we're looking for the rate or the percentage, so we have to move the decimal point 2 places to the right, which will put the decimal point between the 3 and the 5, and we have to put a percent symbol on. So our answer is that the rate is 3.5%. And here's the solution typed up. Here's pencil problem number 6. Again, this solution is available in video form in a separate video, and the solution is as follows. We have to set up our original sentence, and then after translating it, we solve it. And here's another example where you're solving for the percent. So once you find it in decimal form, you change it over to a percentage. Next example. Example 7. The commission earned on the sale of a new camcorder is $80.04. What is the purchase price if the commission rate is 7.25%? Well, we know that we can find the percent of the base, and commission is based on the purchase price, and the part is what we call the commission, and that is the amount that the salesperson keeps. So we can reword this sentence as 7.25% of the base, or in this case of the purchase price, is the part, or the commission, or in this case we know that to be $80.04. We then translate this sentence, this English sentence, into a mathematical equation. gives us the equal sign. Of is our multiplication. This $80.04 can come straight down, but we don't need to write the dollar sign. The purchase price is what we don't know, it's what we're looking for, so that becomes our X. The percent, when we bring it down, we'll get rid of the percent symbol, and we have to move the decimal point. When you're going from percent to decimal, you move it 2 places to the left. And so we're going to end up with, it starts here, we have to move it 1, 2. And so notice that it ended up 2 places to the left of where it started. We typically put the 0 out in front as well. And now we can take our next steps in solving this equation. This multiplication gives us 0.0725 as the coefficient of x, which is what we'll then divide both sides by. Those cancel, giving us just the x equals. And our calculator can help us with the rest. Top divided by the bottom. And that gives us 1104. We have to look back, and within the context of the question, what does that tell us? And it tells us that that is the purchase price that created that commission. And so that's a dollar sign, and that's our final answer. And here's that same solution typed up. Finally, for pencil problem 7, here's the original English sentence, and here's the translation into mathematics, and finally the solution. And that not only brings us to the end of lesson number 3, but it also brings us to the end of the material that will be on test number 1.